Good evening, everyone. You're in the spotlight with Brian Garner for this Thursday, December the 27th, 2018. Good to have you all here for our first and only show of this week and our last show of 2018. It's the last time, I should say, that I'm going to be putting down the 18 at the end of the date here. So that's kind of surreal. It's been a quick year. It's been kind of a blur. But I hope everything's going well for you all this week. Hope you had a great Christmas and everything's going well. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to be doing this all by myself because I saw some people wondering if maybe Mike would be joining us tonight. He's not. Thursdays are rough for him with his job situation. As you know, he's been joining us a lot on Tuesdays, and that'll probably be the case for the next month or so. But with us doing this week's show on Thursday and next week's show on Thursday, you probably won't hear from him or see him on here in the next 2 weeks. So, yeah, so it'll be me doing the shows this week and next week all by my lonesome, which is something that you all gotten used to in the last year or so. So, but we don't really have a lot to do. It's funny. When we usually do these combo shows, usually have a lot to do. We cover sports, we cover entertainment, we cover wrestling. There's a lot to do. Well, we don't really have a lot to do tonight. I was doing the outline this afternoon, and I remember last week when I was on the air, we were talking about these next two shows, and I saw, they're gonna be jam-packed shows, and then I looked at them like, well, wait a minute, what can we really talk about? There isn't a lot of big entertainment news out there. We're kind of in that lull between Christmas and New Year's, not a lot going on. There isn't a lot going on in college basketball. There hasn't been any big notable things, not anything we're talking about like that we have to press and talk about. Nothing's really going on in baseball right now. Everything's slow to a crawl. You had the NBA stuff on Christmas, and there's some stuff with LeBron and that, and we could talk about that. I mean, LeBron's injury is obviously going to affect the Lakers, and we'll see if that even impacts much because he might even still play through the injury. Who knows? Or what happens there, even if he's out for a little bit, whatever the case may be. There's just not a lot. I mean, the Christmas games were all right, but there wasn't anything. I mean, you give the Lakers credit for knocking off Golden State, and that's huge and all, but it's early in the season, so we're kind of in that period where even though you get that big, that big game here and there, big games on Christmas Day, and you get some big games here and there. Again, nothing like earth-shattering worth talking about. It's too early. We go through this every year. So what is there to talk about? Well, we got obviously the NFL, and that's going to be the big thing today as we head into the last weekend of the regular season, and boy, do we have some drama. We'll get into that. We'll set the stage for what should be an entertaining last weekend of the season. We'll talk about that and, make predictions and all that stuff. We'll do all that. And, that's going to be most of the show. We do have this week's edition of the box office, but we're not going to do TV highlights because there isn't much going on right now. And there's just nothing else to come. I did decide to scrap doing a wrestling segment this week because I think some of the stuff that happened on Raw and SmackDown, we actually covered. We actually covered on last week's show because the spoilers were coming. Because remember, both Raw and SmackDown were taped. There was a few things that they threw in. Maybe we'll touch on them briefly, but honestly, there's nothing that we absolutely just have to talk about. So there's not a lot to do. So really, tonight's going to be mostly just the box office beating the NFL stuff. That's really all it's going to be. So it's not going to be a very long show for a show that we usually is a long show, and we have to do everything in one show. So yeah, it's just not going to be a long show tonight. But you know what? That's okay. It's kind of like a holiday week, and people are busy and stuff anyway. So it's all good. It's fine. So but yeah, that's going to be the show tonight. So not a long show at all. And then next Thursday will probably be more of the same. Probably very similar to tonight. Probably not a lot going on. Well, obviously we'll do a little bit more. We'll have a little bit more to do because we'll have college football. And I'm not saying I'm not going to talk about college football, but really not much going on. A lot of these bowl games have been bad. The good bowl games still yet to come here. With the big games coming up in the playoff games. And obviously, we'll set the stage for the national championship next week too. So we'll have far more to talk about next week than we will this week. So next week at least you'll have we'll talk about college football on top of what we're doing tonight. So you have a little bit more going on, but not much more. Next week will probably be a very similar type show. And the week after that, we'll be back to normal. We'll have a lot going on. You have the national championship. You'll have the NFL playoffs, which will probably set the stage for next week as well. We'll have, not probably will, have more college basketball conference play will be fully underway. We'll have more TV shows back. There'll be a lot more to talk about come January. So this next couple weeks that are going to be a little bit slow. So, but yeah, so hey, it happens. That's the way it goes. Sometimes some periods are busier than others, and you know, it is what it is. So we'll get through it. We'll talk what we can talk about tonight, and then we'll move on, and you know, and we'll get into the new year next week, and that's going to be very exciting. We got lots of big plans for New Year, as you all know. Couple things to remind you of before we get going here. Remember, on January the 10th, Thursday, January the 10th, that is the deadline for the nomination ballots for this year's film awards. So make sure you get those nomination ballots in by then if you are participating in this year's film awards. On that night, we'll also open up the submissions. Actually, no, we won't. That'll be the week after. The week after, which is when we announce the nomination, that'll be on Thursday, January 17th. That night, we'll also open up the process for submissions for the nominations for the live vote of the awards. Those are the awards that we vote on live during the In the Spotlight Film Awards in February. We'll let you get those of you that have not been involved in the process yet. We'll open up to you so you can be involved through that method. So yeah, so that'll be coming up over these next couple weeks. So make sure those of you that are participating in the awards note those deadlines, those important dates. If you have any questions, of course, you can ask us via social media or by email. So make sure that you do that if you have any questions. And those that have a ballot, your information is on the ballot. But if you still have any other questions, you can, of course, let us know. All right, so that's the big reminders in regards to the awards. Again, next week we have one show, and then the week after that we're back to 2 shows a week through, I believe. Well, I won't say through February because we might be starting the new stuff in February. So, you know, we'll see about that, but at least through January. So, probably through February, but we'll see. But we'll get into all that and more later on. All right, so with all that being said, as I start the show, let me remind you all the ways in which you can interact and contribute to our show, have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight401@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight401. Remember to use the hashtag itspotlight401 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And, of course, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure that you like our fan page once you find it or once you're on it. All right, so again, let me just throw in a couple things before we get to the football, just because I mentioned them in passing. I think people might like us to mention them. I mentioned some of the wrestling stuff that we could bring up. I mean, I mentioned wrestling and how we had mentioned like some of the spoilers that came out last week about, you know, the tapes Raw and SmackDown that aired this week. And really not much went on, but they did throw in a couple of pre-taped segments. One was a Vince McMahon segment where he dressed like Santa Claus on Monday Night Raw, where he announced there'll be a women's tag team championship coming in the new year, and that John Cena was returning to not only one show, but for both shows, Raw and SmackDown, which is interesting because a week prior, John Cena had done an interview where he had said that he was not going to be on TV. So it's interesting that happened. I don't know if that's a change because of the whole new era stuff that the McMahons are trying to push, or who knows. But it's interesting to say the least. And of course, the women's tag belts have been rumored for a long time. That was just confirming what was inevitable. And the other interesting thing this week, obviously we talked, I think, about Rusev winning the U.S. title. We knew that last because again it was taped. But the other interesting thing, was the AJ Styles Vince McMahon segment on the SmackDown, where Vince basically taunted AJ to the point where he attacked Vince McMahon. Where is that going to lead? Who knows? We've been hearing for months that AJ was facing Randy Orton at WrestleMania. I don't know if that plan changed. I don't know. Obviously, something changed with Shane McMahon because the Miz thing seems like it's going somewhere finally. But yeah, I don't know. But that was another interesting thing. We'll have to keep following where those angles go, because they're no doubt going to play a role in WrestleMania. Because look when they're happening. They're happening right around the end of December, early January, when things usually start to ratchet up towards that. So we'll have to see where that goes with those two points of interest, because last week we had no indication that they were going to go in those directions, and here we are. a week later, we get those taped segments, and they obviously are going to have a significant impact on WWE. So we'll see how those things develop over the next couple weeks. But those are the two more interesting things to talk about or to bring up, and that's why I said I might as well just bring them up, because I know people would want us to at least acknowledge them. And like I said, anything else to really talk about in wrestling that we haven't already talked about? Yeah, Raw and SmackDown were taped. We knew about them last week, so not really much to talk about there. So that's why I didn't put it in the show description, and that's why I said in the open that we weren't going to really talk much about it. So if I wanted to bring up those 2 points of interest. So there's that. And then the NBA thing I mentioned in the open about LeBron and his injury. It's been said that he's likely going to miss a few games, multiple games, I should say. Again, it's early, and the Lakers are off to a good enough start. I know they might fall back in the West a little bit, but realistically speaking, how many games do you think LeBron's going to miss? I mean, if he misses 5, I'd be shocked. He's going to try to play. They'll probably try to rope him in to a point where he's kind of they ease him in, or maybe they start him and make sure they limit his minutes or something. I honestly don't expect him to miss many games. He's going to try to play through it, even though he shouldn't. It's just, I don't really think it's as big of a deal. I know people are going to freak out about it, especially if you're a Laker fan, but I don't see it as a big deal. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll play through a lot of it. Like I said, I will be shocked if he misses more than 5 games. I'll be shocked. So we'll see. So that's why I don't think it's worth putting in the show description, worth going into full detail about, because yeah, I mean, will they drop maybe a spot or 2 in the West? Yeah, but it's only December. It's the end of December. They got plenty of time to make that ground up once LeBron gets back. They got plenty of time. And look, they were never going to be more than a 3 seed anyway. They just weren't. They're not that good. I said they're good. They're not that good. So, is it something that you would have liked to have happened? Absolutely. But is it something that's a significant deal that could end up costing them a playoff spot? No, I don't think so. Not at all. Not at all. They got a good young nucleus. I think they'll probably tread water pretty well, and then he'll, like I said, if he misses more than 5 games, I'll be shocked. And they'll at the very least they'll probably ease him in, limit his minutes, and then he'll play through, and then by the All-Star break he'll probably be healthy. So, I mean, it's going to nag at him for a while, but like the groin issues always do. But I think they'll be fine. I really do. I don't think it's as big of a deal as some people seem to think it is. So, I didn't go. I mean, if you want to talk about big deals, and this has nothing to do with an injury, but Golden State has a bigger problem because of the way they've been playing. And Draymond Green and Klay Thompson can't seem to shoot the ball. That to me is a bigger deal. I mean, will they eventually come out of it? Yeah, but the Golden State Warriors have got to stop doing this whole idea that they can just go through the motions all season and then come up smelling like a rose in April, May, and June. You can't keep doing that. You can't, because eventually it's going to come back to bite you. It will. Teams are getting better around them. Eventually, it's going to come back to bite them. So, but yeah, I just want to, like I said, I just want to throw those couple of points out there. Because I brought them up in the open. I didn't put them in the show, but I brought them up in the open. And I figured, hey, let me just throw these out there at the beginning of the show and talk about them, just to throw a bone at some people that maybe want more than just box office and NFL tonight. So, all right. So with that being said, let's move on to what I said was on the agenda tonight, and that is the NFL and the box office beat, which we'll do last. So let's do the NFL first. We got a lot to talk about there. First of all, as has been my major point of emphasis over these last couple of weeks. The NFL season has taken a turn for the better in these last few weeks. We all thought things wouldn't be very interesting at the end, and they have been. The teams that we thought were going to be at the top and that were going to do great things have fallen completely apart. The Chiefs, ever since Kareem Hunt, of course, the Chiefs have had issues late in the seasons anyway in the past. They've fallen off. The Rams have fallen off. The Saints have risen further than we could have expected. The Steelers have fallen off. while the Ravens have ascended. You know, the Colts have risen from the dead, as have the Titans and the yeah, and the Titans. The Texans are falling off. The Patriots, you don't know what you're going to get week to week. The Eagles are still very much in play. The Vikings are behind. The Panthers fell off the map completely to the point where they're no longer a factor, and pretty much pulled the plug on their season once they shut down Cam Newton. It's been crazy what's gone on in the last half of this NFL season, which goes to show you just never know. Things can turn on a dime, and this year it did. It totally did. This season's been interesting. You know, the beginning of the season was a slightly better quality of play than you've seen in the last few years. And then, you know, the middle part of the season was kind of like, okay, kind of lackluster. You kind of thought you saw the writing on the wall and saw how things were going to end up. And then it just turned and became very compelling. And these last few weeks have been very compelling. Last week was compelling, even though I didn't think it was going to be. And this weekend promises to be just as interesting. You know, and you look at what happened last week. You know, we went into last week with a few teams that, you know, we've got a few teams that were looking to stay in play and put themselves in a position to make a spot. The Redskins, the Titans, the Ravens, to an extent, the Browns, the Vikings, the Colts, the Dolphins, the Eagles. I won't say the Panthers because they pulled the plug on Cam Newton before that, so they were already out. They had already given up at that point. The Steelers, obviously, and the Seahawks were all in play. The Broncos had been knocked out before that. All these teams were in play. Well, we saw a couple teams drop off. The Redskins lose to the Titans. So the Titans put themselves in the position next week, while the Redskins losing, that takes them out of play. And look, both teams played well. You got to give Josh Johnson credit these last 2 weeks because he's kept the Redskins afloat. It just wasn't enough. Tennessee's better. They've proven themselves to be better, and they move on, and they have essentially a playing game this week with the Colts, while the Redskins are done. So that takes care of the Redskins. Meanwhile, the Ravens played a team in the Chargers that was looking to stay with the Chiefs and perhaps maybe instead of being a wild card team, be a 1 seed in the AFC. And, you know, you're thinking the Ravens this might be the bad spot for the Ravens, playing a very red hot Charger team that's been one of the hotter teams in the NFL. And the Ravens don't get fazed by it. They go on the road and win 22-10. They look good on both sides of the ball. They shut down a Charger team that had been rolling. And that almost puts an end to the Chargers, even though the Chiefs lost, which is significant because it keeps the Chargers at least alive for that spot. But you got to figure, look, you know, the Chargers have to win next week and the Chiefs have to lose. I mean, you got to figure that probably put an end to the Chargers potentially taking the 1 seed from the Chiefs. But we'll see. We'll see. But still, it's a kind of like a dagger to the Chargers. But for the Ravens, it puts them in a good spot and put a lot of pressure on the Steelers last week. And we all know what happened with the Steelers there. So that was a huge win for the Ravens because it put them not only in play for the playoffs, but for a division title. The Browns won their game 26-18. Given the situation, it does not matter now, but still you give them credit for staying in it these last few weeks. Cowboys locked up their NFC East bid with a 27-20 win over the Buccaneers. You know, got some help from the Redskins losing. The Eagles obviously still alive for a playoff spot, but Cowboys just need to win. They win, they're in, so they lock up their spot. So again, it's not just about the teams trying to hang in there and potentially get in. It's about the teams trying to close things out. Cowboys took care of business. They closed things out. The Vikings close to closing things out, but 27-9 win over the Lions. Ever since they got rid of their offensive coordinator, they've been a different team. So now you got to be a little bit scared about the Vikings here. They're starting to click at the right time. So they look pretty good, even though the Eagles are still alive. The Vikings look like they might be able to hold on here and get in and be a dangerous team like we all thought they would be. The Colts took care of their business against the Giants, even though they were down early. They come all the way back late to win 28-27. The Colts now are that hot team that I don't think anybody's going to want to play. And you know, but they're going to be with the Titans this week in essentially a playing game. They win, they're in. thanks to what happened with the Saints-Steelers game, which we'll talk about in a minute. Jaguars beat the Dolphins 17-7, which ends their season. They are now out of play. Jaguars have done a good job of playing spoiler, and they'll have another opportunity to play spoiler next week. I'll talk about that in a minute. Patriots take care of the Bills 24-12 to clinch their AFC East title, so they take care of their business. They've been a different team at home this year. They're 7-0, and that's what's so big about what happened with the Texans, which I'll talk about in a minute. They've allowed the Patriots to be in play for that 2 seed. They might not be able to get to that 1, but they're in play for the 2. And that could be critical because that could be enough to get them to the AFC title game now because of the fact that they always have that home field advantage through at least the AFC title game. So that's not what you wanted. If you're an AFC team, you wanted to knock them out of that, but didn't happen. And I mentioned the Texans. Well, they lost a tough one to the Eagles, 32-30. That's a huge win for the Eagles because it keeps them alive, puts pressure on the Vikings here. Vikings lose and Eagles win. The Eagles are in. The Vikings go home. That's what's so huge about it. So Eagles put some pressure on them. Meanwhile, the Texans losing that game hurts them because it allows the Patriots to be in play for that 2 seed. And it keeps the Colts and the Titans alive for potentially taking the division. Who knew the division would be in play for those 2 teams? It leaves those 2 teams. If Houston were to lose to Jacksonville, which I said Jacksonville could still be a spoiler next week. If Houston were to lose, the winner of the Tennessee Indianapolis game will be the division champ, and the Texans all of a sudden are a wild card team. That's how huge that loss was to the Eagles. And now the Texans are going to face some major pressure this week against a Jaguar team that's played well as the spoiler down the stretch. So we'll see what happens. There's some interesting stuff there. Again, the Panthers, I said, pretty much put an end to their season by shutting down Cam Newton. So that game ended up not mattering. We knew they were out before that. The Rams win a game that they had to win, beating the Cardinals 31-9, which again, doesn't really matter now because the Saints are up in front of them, but it kept some pressure on the Saints, who took care of their business against the Steelers, what was, in my opinion, other than the Sunday night game, the game of the weekend. Great game and a heartbreaker for the Steelers. Some crucial penalties late. And, look, the Saints clinched that 1 seed, dropping the Rams to a 2, which is very important because obviously the Rams lost to the Saints in New Orleans. So that's huge. Rams does not look the same. They look good this week, but they played the Cardinals, so who knows? You can't really take a lot of stock in that. But Saints look good. They handle their business. They're now the 1. So they get home field right through the NFC title game, which is huge for them. And for the Steelers, they now are on the outside looking in. They have to not only win their game, but they need help. So, and I don't, again, you figure, here's what you got to figure. What they would need, okay, because in Indy or Tennessee are going to have better records than them, okay? So either Indy or Tennessee is going to win. They can't get that wild card because whoever wins that game is going to be 10-6. Even if Steelers win, they're 9-6-1. So what they need is Baltimore to lose and them to win. And still don't make it. So I think the Steelers are out, right? The Steelers are out. I'm going to check this out to make sure I'm right. But, yeah, the Steelers are out. There's no way they can make it. I'm just trying to see if there's a scenario in which they can make it. I'm just looking at this. I don't think there is. Okay, there is a scenario here. So here's what the Steelers need. So I was right that they are still alive. They need to beat Cincinnati and have the Ravens lose. The only way that they could be the only way that they'll get into the playoffs is by division. They could be a wild card team, but only if the Colts and Titans tie. That's the only way they could be a wild card team. Which again, that would be, almost unfathomable. So, yeah, the Steelers look like they're done. So that was a significant loss there that they had to the Saints. So, Saints took care of their business. The Steelers didn't, and now they're looking at staying home when we all thought it was a foregone conclusion that they would make it. So that's how things can change. The Bears took care of their business to lock up the 3 seed in the NFC against the 49ers. 14-9 wasn't pretty, but they got the job done. And then what I thought was the game of the weekend, the Seahawks beat the Chiefs 38-31 on Sunday Night Football. Great game. The Seahawks clinched their playoff berth and helped the Chargers out by keeping, that 1 seed spot alive for them. And the Chiefs continue to struggle. Their defense continues to struggle. Mahomes was great, but that's, offense. We know the Chiefs are going to be good. It's just about the defense, and it was not good. Seahawks were good, and now they're going to the playoffs. So, so a lot of the stuff in the NFC has been settled. We know who the 1 seed is, the Saints. The Rams will be the 2. The Bears will be the 3. The Cowboys will be the 4. And the 5 will be the Seattle Seahawks. Who will be the 6? Will it be the Vikings or will it be the Eagles? If the Vikings win, no matter what the Eagles do, they're out. If the Vikings lose and the Eagles win, the Eagles go. That's simple. So that's the only thing left to be decided on the NFC side is who's that 6th seed, the Vikings or the Eagles. On the AFC side of things, obviously a lot more to be decided. Chiefs and Chargers are tied at the top. If the Chiefs win, then that's settled. If the Chargers win, the Chiefs lose, then the Chargers are the 1, the Chiefs are the 5. So you got that to be decided. You got the 2 seed, 3 seed thing to be decided between the Patriots and the Texans, as they're both tied there. Then you got the Colts and the Titans in the playing game. The winner of that game goes to the playoffs. The losers goes home. Winner of that game can end up being the division winner if the Texans lose. Ravens right now are the 4 seed. If they lose and the Steelers win, then the Steelers become the 4. The Ravens would be, I think, out. I believe. So, yeah, that's what's all on the line. That's what's all on the line right now. So you got, the 6th seed out there. You got potentially, a lot of pretty much all the seeds up for grabs in the AFC. It's crazy with the AFC. So a lot of stuff to be resolved this Sunday, which makes for very interesting football. And last week, again, some teams handled their business, clinched seeds, clinched spots, and then some teams didn't. And then there were teams that, did what they had to do, and now they have to finish the job this week. So it was a very eventful Sunday, and this week figures to be an eventful Sunday as well. Before we talk about the last week of the regular season, hard to believe, let's see how we did on our picks for Week 16. As I pull them up here. I imagine it'll be another 3-3 week. That's been my theme this year. All right, Week 16. I had Titans over Redskins. That was a win. Chargers over Ravens. That was a loss. Ravens have been killing me all this year. I keep doubting them. Eagles over Texans. That was a win. Panthers over Falcons. That was a loss. If I knew Cam wasn't going to play before, I wouldn't have picked them. Saints over Steelers. That was a win for me. And Chiefs over Seahawks. That was a loss. So I was 100% right. Another 3-3 week. That's been the theme this year, folks. Another 3-3 week for me with the picks. And then we go to Week 17, the last week of the regular season. And, of course, then we move on to the playoffs and make picks for those. But last week of the regular season, and again, it should be very, very good. Very, very good here. With some games that really do matter, particularly on the AFC side of things. So, again, I'll go down all the games. I'll give you a favorite in all the games, but I'm only going to pick 6 as usual, and I'll let you know what 6 I'm going to pick when I pick them. So, this weekend there'll be no Saturday games, no Thursday games, everything on Sunday. We'll start off with the 1 o'clock Eastern game on CBS. The 7-8 Dolphins 1-6 on the road. The 5-10 Bills 3-4 at home. Neither one of these teams have anything really to play for but pride. I'll go with the Bills only because I think the Dolphins are deflated. And the Bills are at home, and they've been playing a little bit better. So I'll go with the Bills. I would favor the Bills there. 1 o'clock Eastern game on Fox. The 5-10 Lions head to Green Bay to take on the 6-8-1 Packers. Again, that game does not factor into anything. You'd favor the Packers at home, but especially since they've been playing better since Mike McCarthy got fired. But That game doesn't really matter either. Not picking it. 1 o'clock Houston game on CBS. The 4-11 Jets, 2-5 on the road, go to New England to play the 10-5 Patriots, 7-0 at home. This game only matters from a seeding standpoint. And you'd have to favor New England here. They're at home where they played their best. I'm not picking this game, but New England would be the favorite, obviously, there. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern game on Fox. The 9-6 Cowboys, 2-5 on the road, head to New York, to the Netherlands to take on the 5-10 Giants, 2-5 on the road. I'm actually going to pick 2-5 at home, I should say. I'm going to pick this game because it's an old school rivalry game, and it's again, not all these games are good games, and at least this game I figure will be a good game. I think the Giants will be good playing for pride, and the Cowboys still a lot to play for. I guess they're playing to prove themselves and just get right, and maybe even try to. They can't get the 3 seed, so really it's about pride and That's the fact it's a rivalry. I think the Cowboys will play, even if they bench their guys late. I think they'll play. I'm still gonna pick the Giants only because of the fact they probably won't play their starters. But I do think this will end up being a close game, and I couldn't find another game to pick. So that was kind of just like one I had to throw in there. So Cowboys or Giants over Cowboys for me, just because of the fact their guys won't play the whole game. 1 o'clock Eastern game on Fox. 6-9 Falcons. We'll take on the 5-10 Buccaneers. That game really doesn't matter. Again, I favor the Falcons there. The Buccaneers have a tendency to be better teams in their building. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern game on CBS. The 5-10 Jaguars, 2-5 on the road. We'll take on the 10-5 Texans, 5-2. I am going to pick this game only because I think I give Jacksonville a puncher's chance at winning. They've enjoyed playing spoiler. Their defense can give teams fits. The Texans have been playing pretty sloppy. They are, I think they're playing a little bit tight right now. I don't like the Houston Texans in this game, even though they're at home. I really don't. I like Jacksonville here. I like Jacksonville to win a very low-scoring game. So I'm picking Jacksonville in an upset to beat the Texans on Sunday, which would be huge for the Colts and the Titans. That's for sure. It'd make things very interesting for the Texans. So that's the 1 o'clock window of games. 4:25 p.m. Eastern game on CBS. 11-4 Chargers, 6-1 on the road at the 6-9 Broncos, 3-4 at home. Let's see here. I'm not gonna pick this game. I thought about picking it, but I'm not gonna pick this game. I would favor the Chargers obviously here because they have more to play for. But the Broncos have scared some. They're a scary team. They've played very well down the stretch. So don't sleep on. But Chargers, I'd have to favor in that game. 4:25 p.m. Eastern game on CBS. 4-11 Raiders, 1-6 on the road, take on the 11-4 Chiefs, 6-1 at home. Chiefs know they need this. They should, being at home, they should win it. Not picking the game, but I obviously favor the Chiefs here. All right. Next up, we have 4:25 p.m. Eastern game on Fox. 4-11 49ers, 0-7 on the road at the 12-3 Rams, 6-1 at home. Rams should win this, even if they don't play all their guys. They should win this. The 49ers is not good on the road anyway. I'm not picking this game, but I'd favor the Rams. 4:25 p.m. Eastern game on Fox. The 11-4 Bears, 4-3 on the road, take on the 8-6-1 Vikings, 5-2. Good game, probably one of the better of the weekend. Give them the matchups. Vikings need this game far more. Bears are already locked into the 3 seed. You figure they won't play their guys the entire time. Minnesota's at home. I like Minnesota to win this game in a close one. But again, even though the Bears are not going to play all their guys, I would still worry about this game because I think they'll keep it low scoring enough to maybe have a chance at it. But I'm still going to go with the Vikings here. Okay, 4:25 p.m. Eastern game on CBS. The 6-9 Bengals, 2-5 on the road at the 8-6-1 Steelers, 4-3 at home. Steelers need it to stay alive. If they lose, then there's no chance. And I think they'll get it. They've always been done well against Cincinnati at home. I like them in this game. I think they'll win this one big, especially given how things happened last week. So Steelers, I think, will win big here. Not picking the game, but Obviously, Steelers, I think, would be the heavy favorite. 4:25 p.m. Eastern game on Fox. 3-12 Cardinals, 2-5 on the road at the 9-6 Seahawks, 6-2 at home. Game doesn't really matter too much. I'm not picking the game. Seattle's already clinched everything they can. They probably won't play all their guys, so this game's a crapshoot. I'd favor Seattle, even though they probably won't play their guys, but who knows? With them not playing their guys the whole game, you might see Arizona sneak a win here. But not picking the game, so who cares? But I talk about the games we're going to pick. These next 3 games I am going to pick, though. 4:25 p.m. Eastern game on Fox. The 8-7 Eagles, 3-4 on the road at the 7-8 Redskins, 3-4 at home. Redskins will enjoy playing spoiler, I think. They've kind of risen to the challenge the last couple weeks behind Josh Johnson, who I assume is going to play this week. The Eagles need this game to stay alive. They know it. So their backs are against the wall here. I think this will be a close, competitive game. I like the Eagles to win a close one in this game and put some pressure on the Vikings. The Eagles have been playing better the last couple weeks. 4:25 p.m. Eastern game on CBS. 7-1 Browns, 2-5 on the road at the 9-6 Ravens, 5-2 at home. Ravens can't afford to lose this game because if they lose this game and the Steelers win, then they're right back to square one again. The Browns are more than just a spoiler. They were in this playoff race until 2 weeks ago. They have been competitive. They're a 500 team right now. If the Steelers don't make it, that tie. I said this in week 1, folks. I said that tie could come back to harm, and here it is. Because if the Steelers didn't have that tie, they had somehow won that game, then, same thing with the Browns, really, if you think about it. So this is an important game for the Ravens, and the Browns are no slouch. I expect a good, competitive, it's going to be an uglier game than you'd want it to be. So it's not going to be crisp, but I expect a good quality game here. I think the Ravens eke it out, but that's a game that scares you if you're a Ravens fan, because the Browns are going to relish playing spoiler and knocking the Ravens out. So I'm going with Ravens over Browns. And the last game I'm going to pick, the Sunday night game, which is essentially a play-in game. 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. The 9-6 Colts, 3-4 on the road at the 9-6 Titans, 6-1 at home. The Colts have not been as good on the road. Titans have been very good at home. Titans have, in these defense and offensive line very much improved. It's the reason for their hot streak since October. Offensively, we knew that they were good, and they've shown it. Titans more about defense and running the ball and grinding games out. So it's a clash of different styles in terms of offense and really in terms of game style. This is a tough game for me to pick. It really is because Tennessee has been a tough team to read. There's times when they impress you and they beat New England, but then you go, well, wait a minute, this is not the same New England team we've seen in past years. And so, but still, they still beat New England. And there's times when they lay an egg. So which Titans team is going to show up in this game? And then there's Indy, are they really this team that's been playing since the middle of October, or is this just a hot streak like we've seen so many teams have this year? I sat here and thought about it, and the team, and I had to go with my gut instinct. My gut instinct is the Colts because I see the body language. I just like the way they're playing, and I think when they're playing at their best, which they've been over the last 2 months, they're the better team, and they have the better quarterback. And I don't know if Mariota's going to play or not. He was hurt last week, so you add all that up, you have to pick the Colts, and that's what I'm doing. I'm picking the Colts over the Titans. On Sunday Night Football. So that was your picks for Week 17. Not the best group of picks. The last 3 might be good, but your picks nonetheless. Giants over Cowboys, Jags over Texans, Vikings over Bears, Eagles over Redskins, Ravens over Browns, Colts over Titans. Your picks for Week 16 of the NFL season, the last regular season picks of this season. Hard to believe. When we start to make playoff picks next week, and then next week we turn the page to the playoffs, and of course you'll have all the coaches being fired and all that kind of stuff. So actually, that won't be. It will be next week. They'll be doing that next week. So, Black Monday will be happening and all that fun stuff. So, so it should be an interesting weekend this weekend. And then you got all those games in the final, in the 4 o'clock window, and then Sunday, of course, Sunday Night Football at the Colts and the Titans. That should make for some good drama. So Sunday should bring some good stuff to the NFL. And look, that's what you want. You want that last weekend to matter, and it does. And that's what's good about it. So should be a lot of fun this weekend in the NFL. And we'll see what we're left with next week and make some picks and start the playoffs and have some fun. That playoff football is fun. It really is. One and done. That's can't get better than that. So all right, so that's the NFL stuff. People are asking me if I'm going to update them on the bowls and our picks for the bowls. We're not going to do that to the end. I don't want to do that until the end because I don't want to go over the list, go back and forth. No, we'll do all that in the end. Maybe we'll do it next week as we kind of revisit, look at things because the playoff games are this weekend. A lot of the big bowl games are this weekend. That's a lot of the games we picked for this weekend. So no sense in doing that now. So we'll do a little bit with that on the next week. And then, of course, we'll make some picks for the championship game next week because we'll know what it is. And all that fun stuff. I'm not going to do that tonight. No. As I said, we're going to leave the college football stuff for next week. Same thing with college basketball. There's nothing pressing that we have to talk about. That's why I gave you all those. I threw that wrestling stuff in at the beginning, and I threw that real NBA stuff in, the LeBron James stuff at the beginning because, I didn't put in the show description, but, I did stuff that people have been bringing up, like what's your thoughts on this and that. So I threw it out there just because I wanted to, throw out a few random topics and throw some people a bone just in case they look at this and go, whoa, all we're doing is NFL and box office night. That's it. I know people get disappointed if we don't do a lot of stuff. So I threw a couple of things out there to begin to make things interesting. So, but yeah, we'll do more next week. We'll do more wrestling next week. We'll do more, we'll do college football next week. We'll do college back. We'll bring all the stuff back next week. We'll have a little more to talk about next week, I think, than this week. It still won't have a lot, but we'll have a little bit more. And then after that, we'll be back to normal. So, but yeah, let's move on now. We got out of the football. We did the football. Let's jump now to the box office here. And always interesting box office because depending on how everything falls, Christmas being on Monday, Christmas Day being on Tuesday, that left you a weekend before Christmas, and a lot of people had a lot this week off. So that kind of helps the box office a little bit. In some ways, you almost think of it as a 5-day period, not just a 3-day. And a lot of these movies that came out Christmas weekend came out on Wednesday of last week. So which made things interesting because it might have hurt some of these movies' opening weekend numbers. So you take that into account too, thinking that could potentially hurt the box office. Sorry about that, folks. We had a little glitch there for a second. I apologize for that. Live podcasting, what can I say? So yeah, anyway, going back to the topic we were discussing, that kind of hurts when you open on a Wednesday where we can cut into your opening weekend box office depending on the kind of movie. Well, that did not happen for these movies that opened last weekend. Mary Poppins Return was the only one that opened in the week. Aquaman and Bumblebee waited till Friday, but some of them had sneak previews earlier. So there was some level of impact, but still not enough to really factor. And I think previews you only get 1-2 showings. So Mary Poppins would have been the only one that would have had maybe an impact before its the actual traditional opening weekend because it opened on a Wednesday and it wasn't a sneak preview type thing. It was open on a Wednesday and had Thursday too. But didn't really hurt, I don't think. As you look at the numbers. So when you look at the 3-day numbers, Aquaman won the weekend, which we all thought it would, 67.4, which is kind of disappointing. I thought it might get to 80, and it didn't. Last week I think I went low. I think I went 50, 60, 70. I thought it could get to 80. It did not do that, but still not bad. 67.4 is not bad. Mary Poppins Returns came in with 23.5 million, and Bumblebee did 21.6. So at one point, it looked like Bumblebee might beat Mary Poppins Returns. That would have been an upset, because I think even with the opening on Wednesday and it hurting its numbers, Mary Poppins Returns needed to get at least second place, and it did that. And I thought it would do better than that, but again, how many more people went and saw it Wednesday and Thursday? It might appeal more to adults. And again, it might be one of those movies that has better legs. That's the thing we talked about last week. You've seen this over the Christmas holiday last year, and we've seen it in the past too, where multiple big movies come out and one movie does well and the other two kind of just hang around. And kind of just do better over the longer period of time, while the other movie just did most of its damage early on. And I think you might see that here. I think movies like Bumblebee and Mary Poppins Returns will see some will sustain themselves into the early part of January and end up doing okay. And look, when you look at their worldwide growth, like Mary Poppins Returns, it's up to 82.9 million worldwide right now, which is not bad. Bumblebee is up to 71.6, which is not great. It's got 135 million budget, but I think it's still going to do okay. Now, Aquaman's a big success story. Now it's already up to 596.2 million worldwide. So it's already over $500 million. So it's well on its way to making $1 billion. It's made 473.6 million overseas, so it's really appealed well overseas. And it figures to have at least a $50 million second weekend. So, you're figuring it might get another, 100, 150, maybe 200 million in the U.S. So, yeah, it's going to get close to $1 billion, if not hit $1 billion. So, Aquaman's in very good shape, even if it doesn't do as well domestically as it does overseas. It doesn't really matter. It's still probably going to get close to that $1 billion mark, which for DC and Warner Bros. Has to be very pleasing. You had Wonder Woman be a success story, and then you had Justice League sandwiched in between that and Aquaman, which is now a success story. So, yeah, it's Aquaman's going to be the big success story. And I had said over the last couple of weeks, I think it's going to surprise people. It was tracking very well. And did that movie doing a little bit better hurt Mary Poppins and Bumblebee? Maybe to an extent. Did the Wednesday opening hurt Mary Poppins? Maybe to an extent. But ultimately, I think, we'll see how the legs turn out. It might end up equaling out anyway. But all three movies did well enough. There wasn't any disasters here. It's not you look at these movies and go, wow, oh God, what the heck happened? Overall, they did well enough. And then you had the holdovers. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse dropped from first to fourth, 16.6 million, a 53% drop off. It's made 143.9 million worldwide on a $90 million budget, so it's holding its own. Despite the competition, so very strong there. The Mule dropped from second to fifth, 9.5 million. Not too bad given the competition, given it appeals to older audiences more than anything else. Dropping from third to sixth was Dr. Seuss's The Grinch, 8.4 million. Then you had Second Act, the Jennifer Lopez vehicle, debuted in seventh with 6.4 million, which isn't great, but only had a $16 million budget, so probably won't do too bad. It's already up to 17.2 million overall, so it's already made its budget back, so I don't think there's any big concerns there. And then everything else was under 5 million, including Welcome to Marwen, the Steve Carell film, which at one point looked like it was going to be not only an awards buzz type movie, but a movie that could do okay, at least decent enough at the box office. Well, that did not happen. It completely flopped, $2.3 million, which you kind of got the suspicion during the fall when you stopped seeing trailers for the movie and advertisements for the movie that the studio had lost faith in it, which is a shame because the movie doesn't sound like it was bad, but these things happen, and something had to pay given all the other movies that came out, and that's exactly what happened. So, how did Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and the day after Christmas help some of these movies? Well, in Aquaman's case, you see what happened on the weekend. Aquaman had a $27.8 million Friday, $21.3 million Saturday, $18.8 million Sunday. On Christmas Eve, it had $10.9 million. Mary Poppins did 6.7 million on Friday, 8.6 million on Saturday, 8.1 million on Sunday, and 6.1 million on Monday. And Bumblebee pulled in 8.5 on Friday, 7 million on Saturday, 6.1 on Sunday, and 3.7 on Monday. As far as those are the three new releases, and I'm not going to go into everything else. But if we go into Christmas Day, which is the big day anyway, like Christmas Day night is usually the big movie night, right? This is the jump you got, okay? And for anybody that ever doubts what I say about Christmas Day night being a big movie night, look at these jumps, okay? Aquaman, 10.9 million on Christmas Eve. Now, Christmas Eve, of course, speaks for itself. 22 million on Christmas Day night. 22 million. That's better than it's Saturday and Sunday. The only day it didn't do better than was its first day. It's crazy. And it pulled in 16.9 million on Wednesday. Mary Poppins, 6.1 million on Christmas Eve, 11.4 million on Christmas Day night, 10.9 million on the day after Christmas. Bumblebee, 3.7 million on Christmas Eve, 8.8 million on Christmas Day night, 6.2 million yesterday. Holmes and Watson, the Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly comedy, they opened on Christmas Day to 6.4 million and put in 3.5 million yesterday. So that's just a real example of the jumps that you got from Christmas Day night, which was huge, particularly Aquaman. I mean, Aquaman jumped $12 million from Christmas Eve to Christmas Day. I mean, for Aquaman to have gotten its second biggest day on Christmas Day night, to have it be bigger than its first Saturday and Sunday is surreal. That's huge. It's huge. So, very big, very big. So Christmas Day really helped a lot of movies, particularly Aquaman. And overall, when you take in the 5 days, all three of the big movies, Aquaman, Mary Poppins, and the Bumblebee did well. We'll see what happens to Holmes and Watson, open on Christmas Day, and obviously you'll have the rest of this weekend. Its true first weekend, opening weekend will be this weekend. Will it opening on Tuesday and having 3 weekdays before it even reaches the weekend hurt its first weekend? Probably. Probably more so in Mary Poppins because, Christmas Day, obviously a big movie day. And, movies like comedy, especially movies, some movies are considered always front-loaded, right? Like you think about a lot of franchise, they're very front-loaded. People rush out to see them. And a lot of comedies are like that in that same vein. You figure Holmes and Watson is going to be like that. Obviously, it's a comedy, front-loaded. And you already saw it lose half its audience from Tuesday to Wednesday. And you figure if it loses another half Wednesday to Thursday, and even if it picks up on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's probably going to – it's, again, a lot. Anybody that really, really wanted to see it will probably have seen it by the weekend. At least the majority of them will have. Then you just got people that are casual. I'm interested in it, but I'll go see it, that kind of thing. Because this week, ordinarily I wouldn't say that, but I'm saying that because this is a week where a lot of people are off and they have the time, and especially on having Christmas Day, they have the time. So, yeah. So I don't know if I have high hopes for that, but we'll see what happens. It probably doesn't have probably doesn't have a big budget. It's only got $42 million budget. I think right now it's at $10 million right now. So, we'll see what happens. Let's see what it does on the weekend. New Year's Eve until Monday, so I don't think that's gonna really hinder anything. So, the box office should have a pretty decent weekend here. People having time off, and New Year's Eve being on Monday and such. So, all right. So there's no new releases this weekend. Holmes and Watson open on Christmas Day in 2,719 theaters. That's a comedy starring Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. So you got that in play this weekend for its first true weekend. And you had Vice, which opened also on Christmas Day in 2,442 theaters from Annapurna Pictures. Directed and written by Anna McKay. And starring Christian Bale, Amy Adams, Steve Carell, Sam Rockwell, Tyler Perry, Bill Pullman. It's already made $7.6 million domestic. It's R-rated, and it's going to skew more to older audiences, but there'll be younger audiences that want to see it too. especially given the fact that it's about recent history and it strays into comedy in a lot of aspects. So you figure that might do okay this weekend too. But other than that, that's it. And those are the only two new releases, and both those are opening on Tuesday. I opened on Tuesday, on Christmas Day, and they've already been out for 2 days. So you figure that that's going to play a role in the weekend grosses for both those films. And again, I felt like anybody that wanted to see Holmes and Watson probably would have already done it. At least the majority of people, like I said, because those kind of movies, when they come out during the holiday weeks, they tend to be very front loaded. Especially when they come out on Christmas Day or on a holiday, you have if you have time at night, or a lot of people happen to be off next few days, there's plenty of time to go see them. So, and they're usually shorter movies. So those kind of movies, comedy movies, or like franchise movies that maybe are on the shorter end of the running time spectrum, usually people really want to see them to go out and see them because they would have the time and the opportunity. So, but yeah, we'll see how the fact they open on Tuesday will help them this weekend. Probably won't help them, but we'll see how it hurts them this weekend. All right, so how do I see this weekend going? Well, I think it's obvious that Aquaman will be number one again. I would say about 50 to 60 million this weekend. Let's see here. I would probably say, because again, Bumblebee's a Transformers movie, so it's probably more front loaded. Mary Poppins Returns. Mary Poppins Returns in second. I'll go about 15, 18. I think it'll hold pretty strong. Bumblebee, I would say around 13 to 14. Holmes and Watson around 11 or 12. So I think it'll be close there between those two movies. I'm going to vote Vice around 9 to 10 million. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse around 7.5, 8. The Grinch is going to drop now that Christmas is over. And then The Mule around 6.5, maybe 5.5 million, somewhere in that range. So it'll be a weekend that belongs to Aquaman. The three big movies from last week will do well. Holmes and Watson, I don't think will do that great. Yeah, and that's how I see this weekend going. So I know I was kind of in a lot of different areas there and trying to maybe pick things apart a little too much there, because we don't have any big true new releases this weekend, so it's not a lot to talk about. So I was trying to go in different areas there to kind of fill the segment, because we have to talk about something else. We have to talk about something tonight. I mean, all we did was that really NFL, and the box office beat was even a little, I won't say weak, but just not a lot going on. Kind of in that lull, like I said. So I mean, there's big movies out, but how much can you talk about them when all they're doing is succeeding? It's more, so whoever said that you can talk more about the negatives than the positives was right. Because if it's a positive, you say, oh, it's doing great, and this is why it's doing great. Negative, it's like, well, wait a minute, it's not doing great. Why isn't it doing great? And how can they improve it? And how can they do this? And how can they do that? So that's kind of why you can always, so if all three of those movies disappointed and didn't do as well, we would have a field day with it. But the fact that they all did reasonably well, there's not as much to talk about. So kind of a weak box office beat. And again, on a week we don't have a lot to talk about, but hey, it's what happens. So this weekend should be a pretty good week at the box office. And then after that, you flip the script to the new year. And then things start to calm down. Yes, you'll be still playing out some of these holiday holdovers, over the next couple of weeks. And you got some movies that will be expanding, and then you'll be talking about some of these awards movies and all that. But that'll be all you have in January and maybe even into February, and then things will start to pick up again. So holiday movie season pretty much climaxes this week. So hard to believe this year's been a blur. It really has been. So that's it. That's the box office beat, and that's all we have. Again, not much else going on, as I've said throughout the show. So with that being said, let's not drag things out. Let's just roll with the punches and end things now. So the show might be over. It does not mean you have to stop interacting, contributing to the show. Continue to have your voice heard, send us your questions about the show, discussing the show, topic ideas, or breaking news items, whether it's sports, entertainment, or wrestling that you want us to cover. Questions about the show, or the In the Spotlight Film Awards. Remember, you can only make submissions to the Film Awards by email only, but you can ask questions by email or social media, so keep that in mind. Any reactions, comments, or opinions on the show or anything regarding the show. All these things, any of these things you can do by email, Facebook, and Twitter. Again, submissions by email only, though. Please keep that in mind. Email address for the show, itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Remember, hashtag itspotlight411 is what you want to use when tweeting about our show or directly to us. And as always, you can find us on Facebook. Just search In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and make sure that you like our fan page so you can interact with us and have fun with us and see all of our random thoughts and musings and all that good stuff. Again, social media, follow us on Twitter at itspotlight411. Use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet in regards to the show, and find us on Facebook In the Spotlight 411, and then make sure that you like our fan page so you can interact with us and see and all the stuff we post and all that fun stuff that we like to do. Or not do, because we don't do it nearly as much as we should, but I digress. 2 ways to keep up the show and look back at classic episodes. You can stream us anytime on Google. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Google. Wow. On YouTube. I am so sorry. I keep thinking about Google Plus, which is not a thing anymore. Search for us anytime. If you want to stream us on YouTube, just search In the Spotlight 411. When you do, you'll be taken to our show page on YouTube, where you can stream us anytime. Any of the episodes we've ever produced for YouTube, that's every episode from mid-October 2015, all up to tonight's episode. All those episodes are able to stream anytime you want. Just head over to YouTube and search In the Spotlight 411. If streaming is not your thing, maybe you prefer to listen to us on the go, or you want to check out older episodes of the show. If any of that applies to you, check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Just search for In the Spotlight 411, and when you do, you'll be taken to our show pages on both sites. We have access to every episode ever produced in the 8 years we've been doing the show. So all of our original episodes from Blog Talk Radio are on there, as well as our episodes from our Talk Shoe run, as well as all episodes from our run here on YouTube, all transfer into audio format for your convenience. Every episode ever done in the past 8 years in audio format for you to listen to anytime you want, whether it's on the go, at your home, wherever you want. And all episodes are in order from the most recent, that being tonight, way back to the oldest, way back in October 2010. So whether you missed a recent show, you want to catch up, or you missed a part of the show, want to listen to an episode again, or like some people like to do, if you're a longtime fan, you want to check out an older episode, or you're a new fan who wants to look back at older episodes and see what the fuss was about back then. If you want to do any of that, you can check us out anytime on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Just search for In the Spotlight 411. So as I always do, because I like to be nice and, even though it bugs him when I do this, I want to give a shout out to Mike. Hopefully he'll join us in a week from Tuesday. Again, he won't be on next week, but a week from Tuesday, hopefully he'll join us again. Shout out to him. Hope everything's going well for him. I just like to include him in the show even when he's not here, because I know it makes people feel like, it reassures people. People always think that we're like fighting. They're like, oh, he's not going to be on the show, and it's going to be just you. Don't worry, folks. It's okay. We're all good. But I feel like I have to reassure people because we get mail about that. So, all right, so shout out to him, and of course I want to thank myself for another great show, pat myself on the back, and thank all of you for your continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching, and to those that will be watching, listening to this in archive at some point, thank you to you as well. That is it for this week. Again, this is our only show, and then the same goes for next week. There will be no show on Tuesday because of New Year's Day. Our next show, again, next Thursday, January the 3rd. Broadcasting and streaming live here on YouTube at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. It'll be very similar to tonight. We'll look back at the last week of the NFL regular season, look ahead to the first weekend of the playoffs, wild card weekend. We'll do a few things with the college football bowls, look ahead to the national championship game, look back at our picks. Maybe do a little college basketball if necessary. Any other sports headlines we'll do if necessary. Do a little wrestling if there's anything worth talking about. Box office beat. Should be a little bit more interesting, I would think. And that'll be our show next week. So with that, I leave you for the night. I hope you have a rest of your. Well, I hope you have a good rest of your night. I keep forgetting the word good. So have a good rest of your night, a great weekend, and a great start to your week next week. And Happy New Year. Be safe, enjoy, and we'll see you back here 1 week from tonight on Thursday, January 3rd, 2019, our first show of 2019, 1 week from tonight at 10 o'clock from Eastern Time, broadcasting live on YouTube. Until then, good night, everybody.